Welcome to the BJJ Mental Coach Podcast, episode 132. I'm your host, Gustavo Dantas, and today's the first episode of 2022. I'm recording this in January, but the last episode was in December. I haven't been releasing as many episodes as I used to, just other priorities, other things going on. So a couple hours earlier, I recorded my conversation with Jeff Mata. He is a brown belt under Baret Yoshida. He's an entrepreneur, motivational speaker. Incredible interview, and highly recommended to stay until the end because it's very inspirational. And during the interview, we'll talk about a few different topics, and one of them just reminded about a book. So it's a book suggestion here. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. Taking responsibility for change by W. Mitchell, forward by Anthony Robbins. Actually, I met W. Mitchell, and he gave me this book. Incredible story. And when you listen to Jeff's story and then you relate it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. Many times in life, they throw us a curveball and we just got to see how. Remember, the fact cannot be changed. Only a response to the fact can be changed. Easier said than done, but basically, that is the attitude. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And in a different context, we did talk a little bit about money. So I mentioned that I've been revisiting this book here this week, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. So he is, it's a great book. If you haven't been involved in any type of investing whatsoever, maybe this is a good thing to kind of start the conversation. I've been thinking about some real estate stuff, so I've been visiting some of his content. Awesome information. And that's it. I want to give you the intro real quick for Jeff, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Let me introduce you to today's guest, Jeff Mata. Jeff is currently a brown belt under Baret Yoshida. He's a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, business owner, and athlete. Jeff is the founder and president of Matavation, co-founder of Haabu, Inc., and a partner with Poway Jiu-Jitsu. He's also an active competitor in the Sport Jiu-Jitsu International Federation. And all of this has been accomplished while being faced with a complete loss of sight on April 18th, 2008. Jeff's mission in life is to inspire and motivate people facing life's challenges, and in order to instill hope and empower against fear. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. That was an awesome introduction, Gustavo. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Can you read it again? No.
Thank you for being here, of course. And man, you mentioned that you competed this weekend, right? At the World League.
Yeah. I was at the World League this weekend. Didn't get the results I wanted. I took silver in the respectable gi division and then lost in no gi, but life goes on. I only give myself 24 hours to complain, but complain.
Good.
And after
Good
that,
strategy.
I just let it go, right? Because I found that back in the past, when you're so attached to it, it just really brings you down, and you lose that confidence. You lose any sort of rhythm or momentum. And honestly, I found later in life that if you can detach from things faster, you can get back up and start it all over again.
Absolutely. And how do you feel when you go to tournaments, especially some are bigger than others? Do you go more like, do you feel like the vibe of the tournament, excitement, and it's busy, and then a smaller event, like, does that interfere in any way, shape, or form for what you do? Because some people sometimes go, oh my God, it's a big tournament, I'm nervous, or I'm small, I'm okay. But like you're not seeing the crowd, but you're feeling the vibe, like how does that impact you?
That's a really good question. So when I first started 10 years ago and I started competing, especially being blind, you don't really see everything. The funny thing that I remember, there was someone talking about, so you don't even get that intimidation factor because you don't see the guy just staring you down in the bullpen, going back and forth pacing. I said, no, I'm just in there listening to my tunes on my headphones, on my AirPods, and just having a good time. And in the present moment now, you still get those butterflies. You still get a little bit of a small bit of anxiety, but honestly, I feel that the smaller tournaments, I'm more playful, right? I go in there, I try doing some techniques or different different concepts that I've been working on, and that I've been training on. Whereas the bigger IBJJF tournaments, I'm I'm pretty much going to whatever strategy I choose for that tournament. And when I first started back in the past, I was always standing, always going for the takedown, but I found myself as time kept on going, I kept on getting better with the guarding. I find doing kind of a 50-50 flip-flop of either pulling guard or going for the takedown, depending on my opponent. So as far as the question that you asked, as far as feeling that vibe, I actually strive off of that. I love it.
Nice.
I love the way that the energy feels, especially after you weigh in and you made weight. Because that's the only job that we have as athletes, right?
That's
And
the
stepping
first
on that,
battle, right?
yeah,
The
exactly.
first match is that if you win that match, you get to compete actually.
Exactly. And you know how that goes, especially if you have to make a weight cut. But getting past that and then just waiting and getting on the mat for your first match, I just love it. It's the nerves, the excitement, everybody going crazy and stuff. It's a fun time.
Cool. Now, let us know, how did martial arts get into your life? Eventually you got to jiu-jitsu, but I know that you
Yeah.
practiced other martial arts before. So yeah, just let us know.
Yeah. So as a kid, my parents pretty much put my brother and I in a bunch of different sports. They were working all the time and we had a lot of energy. But the first martial arts that I actually got into was Taekwondo. And it was, it was fun. I'm not gonna dog down Taekwondo. I have much respect for all the people there, especially the high level competitors and athletes. But at the time, I wasn't really focused as I was later in life as a kid. You're just there just to have fun. You're doing a lot of kata forms, breaking boards and stuff, and uh, it was fun while it lasted. But then my brother and I got into extreme sports like skateboarding and surfing and doing things like that. And then eventually in middle school, I found wrestling, and I was like, wow, this is fun. Collegiate wrestling. I think they call it folk wrestling now, and did that all the way up until high school, and eventually, I actually grew up with one of my good buddies that owned a karate gym, but then extended to a boxing gym and a Muay Thai gym. And then I started training in boxing, Muay Thai, and all that stuff. And then before you knew it, it was just a part of my life of trying to find different ways of expanding my martial arts knowledge. If that answered your question.
Yeah, for sure. And now, so you had an incident. Was it
Yeah.
because of the boxing that,
Yes.
that led to the loss of sight?
Yeah. So um when I started boxing, it was when I was 17 years old, and throughout just the training and all the different trauma that you take to the head, my doctors came through with the conclusion that the trauma of the extensive training and things that I was doing, coupled with an inflammation called uveitis, actually made my left eye get a retinal detachment. And then the crazy thing and the most fascinating thing about eyes is when one goes, the others, for some reason, just get overworked. And then the right eye just followed after. And in 2008, I actually lost all sight. And I mean, if you can imagine losing your sense of sight at the age of 26 after having 20/20 vision, doing what everyone did, the kids did around you, to the teenage and young adulthood life, it was definitely devastating for me, and it resulted in really falling into a deep depression.
That's what I was gonna ask you to, because the reality is everyone that is listening to this right now, no one has a free pass. Everyone is fighting an internal battle that no one knows about it.
Right.
Internal battles and external battles
Mhm.
every day. Some people can cope with the internal battles better than others, anxiety, depression. So people have different ways to cope with this. I cannot even imagine, and that's what I want you to share with us. How was dealing with an internal battle around that time? And how long do you feel that it took for you to like, okay, start to conquering this internal battle?
Yeah, that's actually good. That's a good question. I get that asked a lot, that internal battle, because let's be honest. I mean, I'm sure that you've hidden behind the smile or behind the new car, the new relationship, or even a new place that you've moved, but really there's something internal that you're battling. And in my case, it was the blindness. We use 90% of our senses, right? Approximately 90% of our senses through our sight. And then the other 10% is going to be evenly distributed through your sense of smell, your sense of touch, taste, and hearing. So at 26 years of really relying on your sight, and then all of a sudden it just gets stripped away from you, you kind of lose yourself. And I can
Imagine.
honestly, remember like it was yesterday, sitting in that doctor's office and waiting for my name to get called, and the nurse calling me and saying, "Mr. Mata, you're up." And I go, "Okay, well, I can't see." And she came up and assisted me, put my hand on her shoulder, and walked me down this hallway that literally felt like an eternity, and walked me into an actual room, sat me down on one of those steel cushioned chairs that you would see if you went and saw an ophthalmologist. And I just sat there. I sat there thinking to myself, oh, what's next? What do I have left in my tank or in my life in general? And so many different things were happening through my mind. A lot of those those lies that filter through your head. I'm sure you hear those things like, "Oh, Jeff, you're not good enough," or "Jeff, you're not going to amount to nothing anymore," or even the worst, "Jeff, why don't you just give up on life itself?" And I didn't know where to go. Then again, putting all your eggs in one basket and being so attached to this sense of sight. And when the doctor came in and did literally, it must have only been a few minutes of shining a light in my eyes and looking through these different microscopes, and he just kind of sat back and he took a deep breath, and he just told me, "Mr. Mata, I'm sorry to inform you, but you're not going to be able to see again. They're just starting these surgeries that will be able to fix your sight." And oh, it was, if you could imagine, it was crushing. It was crushing. And this led into this almost 6 year whirlwind of hell. I mean, I'm telling you, it was self-medication, heavy drinking, excessive, trying to party to get my mind off of things, drug use, and all the things that you think would help, but really didn't.
Mm-hmm. Trying to escape it, right?
Yeah, you're just trying to escape this feeling or this void inside your heart. And I couldn't take it. I really couldn't. And you start to actually believe the lies that are swirling
Mm-hmm.
around in your head. And to your point, these internal challenges or these internal brick walls that we're facing every day, I mean, it's inevitable, regardless if you lose your sight, if you lose your job, if you have a shaky relationship, let alone a divorce. I mean, so many people are going through so much now, especially now during this whole pandemic. I mean, you and I were supposed to do this this podcast pre-pandemic, and now we're here now. But I mean, everyone's going through something. And I'm trying my hardest to be a coach in not only jujitsu, but in life, in career, and all of these different elements of life, to help those that may perhaps be going through the same feelings and the same emotions as I went through, losing my sight.
So what do you say it was the shift? were things starting? Of course, again, no one has free pass of internal battles. You have, for the rest of your life, everyone will have internal battles.
Right.
But when do you feel that you start to conquer it and start to like get the best of it, of the internal battle? Because you're going to have, for you listening, there are days that, maybe all those battles, you got the worst of it. You had a bad day
1,000,000%.
internally, so, but what do you feel that it helped to like get that, that record to be like a little more positive than negative regarding to the how to deal with that? What caused the shift?
I honestly feel it was just a divine intervention, this higher power. In my case, it was God. I don't know for your listeners, it whatever your higher power is, but in my case, it was this divine intervention that I was actually blessed enough to experience. And I felt this shift, this almost a flood of love pouring into my heart, because my parents, they're believers in Christ, and they said, "Hey, Jeff, I know things are rough. Why don't you come with us to church?" And honestly, going to that church sermon and listening to this message, it was almost as if my God was just talking to me and letting me know, "Hey, look, son, everything's going to be fine. You think that you need your sight. You think that you need these things in your life, but really, I can make things better. This higher power." And you hear about that a lot in, people that are dealing with addiction, or in AA, they talk about higher power and stuff. And I'm a true believer that you have to go higher than yourself, because every time I was trying to do something myself, like I told you, go self-medicating and drinking drugs, all that type of stuff, nothing was working. I was getting the same results. And I think Denzel Washington said it best in this commencement speech. He said, his wife told him this. He said, "If you want something new in your life, you're going to have to do something new." And in my case, I had to just put those old ways down that I was trying to find this sense of detachment from myself. Because I'll tell you this, Gustavo, I was suicidal. I wanted to take my life, and thank God that I didn't, because I wouldn't be here speaking to you. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing now. And I can honestly say that this blindness, this loss of sight, was an actual blessing in disguise.
Now, after you kind of had this, revelation in a way, what was some of the initial actions that you start taking?
So I found an outlet in finding to rehab the way that I lived without my sight. I'm here in San Diego, so it was a place called San Diego Center for the Blind, and we were I was introduced to this organization, and they actually teach adults, children, like people that are either going blind or went blind or visually impaired through trauma, on how to live and function without your sight. And then from there, I went to what's called the Davidson Academy up in LA, and it was a live-in situation where you actually were just learning Braille. You're learning how to use assistive technology with these softwares called screen readers. You're learning orientation mobility, which is when you see blind guys walking around with their white cane, and then the last one was independent living skills. And throughout this time, I believe I was at the San Diego Center for the Blind for about a year. And then I did that other program. It was like a 6-month program, but I was super determined just to get back into society. So I did it in 4 months and enrolled myself back into college, started doing that. And actually at the Davidson Academy, that's where a couple of the guys, they were doing judo. They were in a judo club, and they were saying, "Hey, judo is a Paralympic sport. I think you should try it out, Jeff. You're an athlete. You should, check it out." And I didn't really think too much of it. But in 2012, I was already going to school for about a semester or two, and I just wanted a little bit more. I wanted to challenge myself. with something else. So I started looking for some judo or jiu-jitsu clubs around town, and I was actually turned down. I was
Really?
turned down by a judo club here in Poway. Yeah, I don't even know if they're in business, but yeah, I was turned down at one school, and they said, no, I think you should check out this other school. And then looked around, and I actually found San Diego Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy, which is my first academy that I actually trained at. And that's where I met Sensei Paulo Fernando Augusto. He was my first professor in both judo and jiu-jitsu. And there was also this Hall of Famer judoka Sensei Walter Dean, who was part of the, I forgot what year it was, but he was part of the U.S. team as a coach. And I just started training there, and I found a new passion in it because it sparked up that fire inside of me that I'm sure you understand when you roll, you kind of have that fire inside of you that you want to just take the other guy out in front of you.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden I felt alive again. And that's why I said to myself, I was like, I got to do this. I got to do this. I want to do this until I can't anymore. So
Beautiful.
it was, and that's a blessing in itself. I honestly, I love it. I'm so in love with jujitsu and grappling and judo. It's not so much judo anymore because my body just,
I know judo's
oh my
rough, man.
gosh, it's rough. I know that you had Jimmy Pedro and Travis Stevens on your podcast, and oh, those guys are beasts. But
Yeah.
especially when you get a little bit older, I mean, when you're a kid, you can break, fall, and get back up, break, fall, and get back up. You're fine. But a little later, oh man, it's tough on your
Yeah.
body.
And Jimmy Pedro, I believe I'm almost positive he went to 4 Olympics, if I'm
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, yeah,
So people don't realize, like, okay, you're doing judo since you're probably like 3 years old, right?
yeah. Right, right.
So I don't think what people realize of Olympic athlete is how long it takes for you just to get to an event. There's
Yeah,
only 4 years apart, just 4 years for you to, like, if things don't go well, like, oh,
yep.
well, okay, prepare yourself, go through 4 more years. So
Or yeah,
maybe you can be in a party again. And you sign up for that 4 times. That's 16
16
years of
years. Wow.
plus the other, of course, time that, training
Yeah,
as a kid.
yeah.
It's incredible to see. There's a new documentary out on
Uh-huh.
HBO Max. What is the name? That the cover
Uh-huh.
is Phelps is on the cover. It's all about mental health. Did you hear about it?
Oh, wow. No, I haven't.
Dude, it's
Tell me a little bit
real.
more about that. I
Yeah,
have to
I
look
need
that
to
up.
take a look at. I just watched it like this month,
Uh-huh.
but it's Michael Phelps on the cover. I do not remember the name of it right now, but it's all about Olympic athletes and
Yeah.
mental health.
Oh, wow.
So, and
And
talking to,
they see therapists all the time. They
oh
got
yeah,
they got a whole team. When
yeah,
I was part of the US national team and we did the 2015 Pan American Games, I mean, they had everything literally in the village for us. We had chiropractic, we had the hot tub, the ice bath, the massage therapist. I mean, the whole deal. And these guys are just, like you said, machines. Jimmy Pedro, I mean, 4 times, 16 years. I mean, I can only imagine how his body is now,
yeah,
today, right?
yeah,
And then Travis Stevens, oh man, same thing. I mean, I think he had a broken hand in the finals or something,
yeah,
and
dude,
he just
he's a beast. That dude is a beast. My
it,
God.
it's crazy. And something so fascinating on just the whole point on the Olympics, right? There was research, some research study that actually it showed that third place, the bronze medal, is actually happier than the
Hmm.
person that got silver. And they believe that because that person that got silver was in the finals and was right about to get their gold medal,
Mm-hmm.
it loses that weight. So they were literally doing a whole study about that on the whole mental health and the gratitude of it. But
Hmm.
that bronze medal, they're just happy to be on the podium, right? And you wouldn't think that that silver medal really kind of crushes that person. But I mean, just like what
Getting
happened this
so
weekend, I
close,
mean, I'm
Yeah.
crushed. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you
so,
get it
so
so
close,
close. Yeah. On episode 129, I had Nick Hoekstra. He's a purple belt from Kansas City.
Okay.
He lost his side too.
Oh, I heard that one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He did
yeah.
judo in
Mhm.
Japan,
Japan,
in like a
yes,
Kodokan. Yeah.
in jiu-jitsu, yeah. And so I was teaching a seminar. That's when I met him
Uh,
personally.
right.
And it was so fascinating, like see him learning and realizing how present like
Hmm.
you have to be, because sometimes
A million
you
percent.
can be so lazy, like,
Yeah.
I just put my leg here. But what amazes me is how present in jiu-jitsu, especially in this situation,
Yeah.
you have to be, because you roll in at the same time. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
aware of training partners getting too close to me, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
things like that. Something that I found like fascinating too, he said that just having like some type of radio or music playing, he
Mhm.
can, in the middle of like a bunch of scrambles and or whatever, you upside down, you come back up, just for you to hear the sound where the music's coming from, like, okay, I know where I'm at in the room.
Yeah. No,
You
no.
know what I mean?
I
It's
was,
incredible.
I was literally nodding my head the whole time I was listening to that podcast, and it's true. So at our gym over at Poway Jiu-Jitsu, we have a speaker right in the corner on this wall. So I'll listen to that, especially when I'm teaching, to know exactly where my body position is supposed to be,
Beautiful.
and it's these different things that you can use for your awareness, your sensory awareness, to
Hmm.
figure out, okay, am I doing the technique correctly where the whole class can see me? And I mean, it's tough when you can't see anything,
Yeah,
right?
dude. That's incredible. Now let's talk a little bit about business.
Yeah.
When do you feel that since you was young, you had the entrepreneurial bug, or something that was developed later? What do you think?
So funny story. So I have a cousin, Christine. She's up in the Bay Area, and ever since we were kids, she would always she would always make fun of, all the cousins and stuff, and they would always make fun of me because I was always trying to sell them something, like anything I can get my hands on, I was selling. And they're like saying, "Oh man, Jeff's gonna
Nice.
be that guy on the infomercials selling George Foreman grills to everybody and stuff." And here you go. I'm definitely an entrepreneur, and I honestly felt it. Yeah, when I was younger, that I liked to develop relationships. I liked being able to sell, and I had a lot of sales jobs growing up, so it was kind of in my blood. And then my mom's mom, my grandma, she was also an entrepreneur, which I didn't even know about until she passed away. I did her eulogy, and they were giving me bits and pieces of her history, and I go, "The heck?" She had her own little store, and she was going to. So I'm Filipino, so they're in the Philippines. She would go to Subic Bay, which was the American base at the time, and she would go and buy American um, cigarettes and goods, and then bring it back to her community and sell it, like, with high profit margins. So it was just in my blood. But yeah, growing up, always selling something. I think my first real job was Cutco knives. I don't know if you're familiar with
Mm-mm.
Cutco,
No.
but they're just this market level, multi-level marketing company. And I thought to myself, oh man, this is awesome. And found out real quickly that selling knives was very difficult, but I found a way. I was able to find my stride, and after that, got into a couple more sales jobs. Started selling real estate before the crash, and did very well. And now, as an entrepreneur myself, these opportunities, they come and go. And actually, for me, the first startup that I launched, which was actually in 2019, right after I graduated from college, I actually had a full ride scholarship. Okay, I had a full ride scholarship to San Diego State University in what's called industrial organizational psychology, which is just a fancy word of saying like business psychology.
Mm.
And I got hit by my friend, and he said, you got to check this out. It was like a formulation, right? It was like a little topical cream. And he knew that I was competing all the time, and that I would have some soreness all over my body. And he said, just try this out. It's just a formulation. It's got like some CBD products in it, and it's all essential oils. There's no man-made stuff. Just give it a shot. And I was like, whatever. I wasn't really a huge believer, so I threw it on my dresser. But I was having this pain, this pain that kept on getting worse on my left arm. And I think it was like tennis elbow, like that tendonitis, because of just the pushing and pulling, right, that we're doing all the time in grappling and jiu-jitsu. And knowing myself, I'm just like, I'm just gonna get through it. I'm just gonna go to the gym. I'm just gonna work through it. But you got to listen to your body, right? And it kept on getting worse. So I said, what the hell? I'm gonna give it a shot. So I grabbed that jar. I threw it on my tricep area, that tendon area, and he told me just put it on twice a day. And I did it for 2 days. And all of a sudden, when I went back to the gym, I was like, you know what, let me try this out again. And I didn't feel that pain anymore. And I go, what the heck? This is weird. So I go to the pull-up bar, because I couldn't do any pull-ups at the time. And I hop on that bar and I just start banging them out. And I'm like, what the freak? And so right after my workout, I call my buddy. I go, hey, Calvin, what's up, man? Hey, you know that stuff that you gave me? Man, dude, that works. And his response is like, what? It does? Like, oh, yeah, man, it does. He's like, oh my God, we gotta go get lunch. Let's go and talk, And that was the whole inception, the idea of forming Haabu, because he knew a biomedical chemist that formulated this and wanted to push it out and push the scalability. And he said, hey, Jeff, I don't know anything about business. You just graduated. Do you want to start a brand? And I said, oh man, I don't know, man, because if I had, I'm like, I want the secure job, right? You're programmed. You're programmed to be like, oh no, take the secure way. So I was kind of stuck in this predicament. So to my left, I was talking to a lot of my mentors that were educators, that were 10-year professors. And they said, Jeff, you need to go to school, get your degree, and be a 10-year professor. You're great. You know how to explain things, and you're great with speaking, right? And then to the right of me, I also grew to have good relationships with business professionals, different presidents and CEOs and CFOs of different companies and consultants. And they said, Jeff, you don't need that formal education. He's like, you already got it. You got a story. Use this world as your lab and just throw experiments out there. And ultimately, it was my decision. And I just took a leap of faith, which is the hardest for any entrepreneur or anyone trying to start something, but it's taking that leap of faith. And I took it and never looked back. And now I'm running four companies now. It's crazy.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the most important thing is you just need to be you, to do you.
Yes.
And for you who are listening right now, sure. I mean, if you have to listen to all of our parents' advice,
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
They want the best and they wish the best, but it doesn't mean that it's correct, applicable for you, or not necessarily they are right. You don't have to agree with their vision, because maybe, yeah, sure, you can have we talk here plenty of times, yeah, we can have an incredible job that pays a lot of money, and you're just miserable and you can't stand doing the job. Like, let me ask you have the security,
right. Let me ask you this, because when you were growing up, was there a line of a career that you were going towards because your parents or your teachers or some sort of influence push you away to a certain place, or did you just already know that you wanted to teach jiu-jitsu, open up gyms? Like in your case, did you have a path that you had to stray away from and then come back to?
Interesting question, long question. I'll try to keep it short. I was in Brazil a couple of weeks ago with my mom, and when I was 12 years old, she was in a very toxic relationship, with domestic violence, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the moment in our house that my brother and I couldn't do anything. It was kind of like I don't know, like, I don't know what
Like
can
a
I,
pivotal point or something.
it is, but
Yeah.
I'm saying you more like just living in a situation that are like, dude, I can't do anything. I can't do this. I can't do that. And for some reason around that age, I didn't know what I was going to do, but it just got into my head of like, I just don't want people telling me what to do. And
Okay. Okay.
that was my number one motivation. It
Mhm.
was, I don't want people telling. And since I was young, I got involved with entrepreneurship. I don't even have memories of 4 years old and then try to sell fruits, like you have like lime tree in the house that we
Right.
live. And then my mom told us to everyone that I just start collecting some and put in a little bucket and going to in front of the house to sell, because they're like, well, no one's gonna eat this, might as well I can sell it.
Yeah.
So little things that when you're young,
Mhm.
and maybe things for you that are listening right now, maybe have a child or maybe an F. These are traits to pay attention. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like kids that want to negotiate, and that's definitely have some entrepreneurial DNA there, possibly.
Definitely.
And
I totally agree.
it's just happened that when I started jiu-jitsu when I was 14 or 15. By 16, I realized that that's what I wanted to do and pursue. So I got lucky with that. I just honestly, it just happened to be jiu-jitsu. I feel like anything that I really get involved, I was just looking for something. I couldn't do a lot of activity, couldn't do any activities because my mom couldn't really afford. So I want to do soccer. I want to do this. And I couldn't really do. So finally, when she started doing better and I was able to, for her to pay for me to do jiu-jitsu. And by 16, I just put it together. So like, well, I saw the jiu-jitsu instructor and I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me there's a gig out there that you can teach jiu-jitsu and get paid, is that right? I'm like, yeah, they didn't. Of course, we're talking like late 90s or late 80s, early 90s, which you try to convince someone you're going to make money with martial arts, especially in the early 90s, would be like, come on, man. So I think the main thing for me, and that's my, I don't know, my suggestion to people is when I got to the point to go to college, my mom was not too happy that I wanted to pursue jiu-jitsu. However, I decided to go to college, but for physical education, which is I want something related to jiu-jitsu, to sports.
So did you do kinesiology or something like that?
Is that I want to be like a PE teacher.
PT guy.
Sort of. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so that, because in Brazil, I didn't think I was going to live abroad. It's just, things, just happened. But yeah, it's just happened that I had this opportunity, and in Brazil, my idea of having a jiu-jitsu school is it's rare for you. I don't know how it is right now. I've been away for over 20 years, but I don't remember back then, like, oh, you just rent a place and you started jiu-jitsu school. It's not that simple.
It wasn't that
it's
simple.
Usually, it's a fitness gym. Be like, yo, I rent you this little space here. You can put some mats here and you run your program.
Like subleasing mats. Okay.
Basically. Probably now is different, but back in over 20 years ago, I probably could count how many people can actually let me rent a place and run a jiu-jitsu school. Not that many people were able to pull that off. So in order to have a gym in Brazil and run it, you need to have a physical education degree. So I was like, well, let me put both together. So if I do have to get a gym, a fitness gym to have jiu-jitsu program, at least I have the P degree to back it up. To back it up, all that. So basically that was my idea. So my mom what she got upset is, again, she's my best friend, and then everything that for me to be here, of course, was 100% her, because it was a single mom raising two boys. But when it got to the decision, I said I want to do physical education. She was living it. She was like, you're gonna be broke, you're not gonna make any money, you're not gonna be successful. She's just going off, gonna
look
be a
at me
PE teacher.
Now, Mom.
But in my mind, I was 18, but like she didn't understand that. I was just like, you're not understanding, Mom. This is not about money. I'm
Right.
not thinking about money.
Right.
I'm
Right.
thinking about doing what I want to do. And it's very, God, how many people do you know, Jeff, or even if you were
Oh.
listening right now, that had a plan and the parents shut down, like, what are you going
Mm-hmm.
to do? No, they pass their insecurities to them. And guess what?
Yes.
They will go to a different path. And that's okay.
Right.
Maybe a path that worked out, or whatever.
Right.
But maybe it's
But
something that years
it's
later
highly,
they're
yeah, it's high. It's,
regretting.
yeah, it's highly more, or it's more than likely that it's regretting. And that's the worst thing, is settling, right? I never wanted to settle. And I always have this philosophy of, it's not what everyone thinks that you want to be, right? It's what you want to be. And to your
Mhm.
point, not letting these influences of everyone around you
That
influence you
people
to
that
do.
loves you, by the way, love you
Yeah,
and care about you.
right, exactly, exactly. It could be your family, it could be your partner, whatever the case may be. But in the end, it's going to be you and your decision, and you're going to have to live with it. So why not take that leap of faith, whether it's starting a salon or a clothing brand, or whatever the case may be, whatever you have a lot of listeners. But whatever it is, just taking the steps. And for you, Gustavo, you took the steps of getting that certification, that degree. And perhaps there's a step that people need to do before they launch
Hmm.
that startup, whether it's writing up a business plan, whether it's talking to some angel investors that are going to give you some capital to start. But do your homework, right? Do your research, do your homework, and then obviously launch that dream, and have goals as well.
I've been revisiting this week the audiobook, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh yeah, Robert Kiyosaki. I was
Yeah,
I just had this conversation with one of my yeah,
highly recommended
yeah.
for everyone. But he said something really cool that I think it was from someone else,
Uh,
but it said like people are always one skill away from like
yes.
really like
Yep.
drastically improving their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One just kind of, dude, just learn this, you develop this skill here,
Yes.
automatically is going to bump you up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
No, no. I 1,000,000%. He also said something funny. He said, uh, for those listeners that are going to college, um, he said, C grade people that get C's, they open up businesses,
Mhm.
and the people that have A's work for them, and the
Yeah.
people that have B's work for the government.
That's good. So one thing that I want to share with everyone, there's a few quotes, right? Maybe you have some of the hardcore listeners. This is what, episode 132, I believe. 132, yes. So I haven't been as consistent as before, just too many things happening.
Yeah.
But I have a few quotes that I like to share with people, and I have two of my main ones. I'm going to share one that I read for the hardcore listeners that already listened, probably all 132. It's about challenging, and this is going to relate to, I think, to everyone. So when I was, one of the things that kind of guided me
Mhm.
along the way, it was taking on challenges.
Mhm.
So when I was a teenager, probably around that time, I heard a quote that's not the exact same words, but something to this extent was, if you're looking for a big opportunity, accept a big challenge.
Mm.
So when you look into your journey, when you accept that challenge of, number one, just kind of get out of that funk,
Yep.
look for, developing a skill, your education was a huge challenge for you,
Mhm.
you know, mentally, emotionally, just everything. It was a huge challenge, but there would be no way that would not give you, automatically just generate some type of opportunity,
Right.
regardless. And this is important, regardless if you did not get the outcome that you want, because that's the problem. Sometimes people go through an experience,
Mhm.
they do not get the outcome that they want, and then that's it, I failed, that was not good. And like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Many times that opportunity comes back in a form of a lesson,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
often comes back into a form of another challenge. Since you got this year, guess what? We have this year for you. Do you want to take it? Okay, you do want it? Let's go, because this is going to
Mhm.
lead to something else. So at the end of the day, it's going to be your decision. And that's going to come my second quote, not mine, but from Tony Robbins.
Right.
It's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. At the moment that you made your decision to go to college to do that, everything your destiny completely shaped. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
definitely.
So that's a phrase for people to take in consideration, because I guarantee you, if you're listening right now, like I said, regardless if it was a positive or negative outcome, or not even say positive or negative,
Yeah.
desired or undesired outcome, I guarantee you that moments in your life that you accept a big challenge, a big opportunity present itself. If you had the awareness to realize that it's happening, this opportunity is happening in a way, in a form of a lesson of another challenge, that is up to you. But I tell you what,
Mm-hmm.
anytime you accept a huge challenge, for sure it will lead to a really good opportunity.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, I don't know if it was John Maxwell or Les Brown that said, fail, fail forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna fail. It's inevitable that you're gonna fail. Even if you're like the best in the best, the master of whatever you do, you're going to fail. It's inevitable. And like you said, you just have to take those failures and just keep on moving, keep on moving forward, because what'd you say? I think you said you're just right, that you're one step
Yeah,
from making
one
that
skill
breakthrough,
away or
one
one
skill
knowledge.
away.
Yeah.
And we tend to fall short, and it's this it's kind of like this life that we live in, with instant gratification, with the 2-day shipping from Amazon Prime, with all the content right at your fingertips. People aren't ever putting themselves through these challenges, or persevering through adversity, because of this normalcy of ease. But I'm sure you did this before. I know I did. I might outdate myself, but delayed gratification, where I remember we would have cereal boxes, and you'd cut out the proof of purchase and you'd mail it out. You'd wait like a week or two, and they would send you some sort of bottle squirter thing that you could put on a 2-liter bottle, that was plastic, that was probably made by, in like, by 2 cents or something like that. But you're so ecstatic and so excited that you got this thing in the mail, but it really had no value whatsoever. But
Now let's talk about, since we're talking about entrepreneurship, of
uh,
course it's not like all roses and beautiful.
right.
That's something that sometimes people don't realize before they kind of get into uh, becoming an entrepreneur. So since after you got out of college
Mhm.
and then start kind of doing new things, what are some of like the biggest struggles that you face in entrepreneurship? That could be any topic, could be marketing, sales, whatever. What's something that you're like, I didn't know about that?
Well, so I don't know if I forgot the person that wrote the book, but there's a book called E-Myth.
Yes,
And
Michael
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. So he breaks it down to entrepreneurship, or entrepreneur, manager, and skill set, right? And what happens is, as a skill set person, you got the skill that people want your service or your product. So you're thinking to yourself, well, why not make a business out of it? So you start, you set up a website, you start selling things. I'll just use myself for example, for the Haabu. So we had this product, and we want to sell it. So now I have to manage the steps of shipping, supply chain, marketing, promotions, business taxes. I mean, it's just a whole whirlwind of crap, and
Mhm.
then you level up to the entrepreneur side, and that's where the innovation, the creativity comes around, and how you scale your business out. Well, in the E-Myth, it talks about you can't be all three, but
Mhm.
we as skill set um, masters think that we can be all three. And I found that the best way to get things done is you really have to get help. I mean, I tried doing it. Um, I saved on like corporation filing, all that stuff. But then when it got to taxes and doing books and stuff, I was trying to do it myself, and I'm like, oh man, I can't do this. And actually, one of my first failures in business was I didn't file in time, and we got hit with a $6,600 penalty. And I'm like, oh crap. And we didn't even make any money the first year. So I immediately got connected with my CPA now. Shout out to John Greenman, but he swept it on the rug. He gave us a one get out of jail free card that we can use. And I learned that the things that you're bad at, or those weaknesses, you're gonna have to ask for help. You can't do it yourself. And I found that finding that support and that interdependency with other professionals makes it so much easier. And another thing too is you want to obviously grow your business, but there's so many working parts. So if you're trying to juggle everything, eventually just one small step this way or straight off this path is just going to put a whole kibosh to the whole model. So I learned that asking for help and creating relationships, you got to take care of your people, right? Because your organization is only good as the people that run it. And I'm a huge believer of building cohesion within groups. And that's what I found, that you can't do it yourself. And I thought I could do it myself because I was assertive, I was punctual, I knew how to manage my time. I had everything. I thought I had everything under control, but let it behold, I didn't. So
yeah, in the beginning of I think of course, most of the entrepreneurs, you're going to be kind of in the beginning a one-man show, right? You're just trying to figure it out. You start in the band, but you're the band. You know what I mean? You're the leader of the band, but you don't have any people. You just like, okay, I'm starting the band. Who is coming with me? Right. So that's gonna take some time. You know what I mean? Of course, to recognize the same. I struggle a lot with that too. Sometimes that control freak type of thing. No, I gotta do it. No, I gotta touch this. I gotta do that.
Right. Now we fall into that, right? We fall into that.
Absolutely.
It's if I don't do it, it's not going to get done right. We got to get out of that mindset, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And well, of course, you have a lot of people with different business here, but we do have a lot of jiu-jitsu instructors or school owners here, right, listening. So one of the things that a challenging, good, but challenging chapter in people's entrepreneurship journey. I'm using jiu-jitsu just because, that's my background. Right. But I feel like there are moments in your business that you're a one-man show, and then I was like, okay, I can't really afford people. And then you get to a point where you're like, man, I'm doing okay, but not quite okay to bring someone on board yet. So now in a limbo, like, should I try to hire someone? And that it's a critical, first of all, it's a good problem to have, because that things are growing and you need a problem. Now back to the beginning, what you said about taking that leap of faith and be like, you know what, I'm going. And even though you're not completely financially ready for it, maybe some people may feel that is an irresponsible advice, but because sometimes my wife go like, you're crazy doing this, you invested doing that. And I'm like, you know what, we got to see ourselves as just quarterbacks, man. You're not always gonna land. Not every throw is a touchdown. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
You're gonna overthrow it. Unfortunately, we're not gonna hit everything, so I feel that just having that and one suggestion, for instance, I was talking with someone that has a school, and I was talking about this strategy that I did when the first time I actually paid for someone to teach classes for me. Right. It was the moment that, again, I couldn't do it. But I said, like, let's do this. Let's try for 3 months. I have enough to kind of make it happen for 3 months. Right. If things go well, we keep doing. If not, but at least I'm not, not promising anything. It's just like, I'm trying. Totally. And honestly, I've never had to actually cut off. I don't even know how many times I've done this move before. But I never had to like go back, like, hey, I want to have to go back. I can, because when I like to say one thing too, that nothing is more motivating than necessity. When you see
Right.
your bank account is low, it's like, dude, yeah, time to hustle. We need to make this happen.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
not gonna wait.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of reminds me of this book, what The Richest Man in Babylon, right?
Yeah.
And he says the first rule is you have to pay yourself. And we always get into the point of like, oh no, I don't have enough money. I got to pay rent. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got a phone bill. But if you don't set aside a bill for yourself, and it
Yeah.
could be 10%, it could be 5%, it could be very small, but you have to intentionally put it out there and pay yourself, because you have to find ways to save, and then again compound interest on managing that money. But uh for example, if you went and got a phone, right, and you wanted to do an upgrade, you'll find a way to get $65 a month, right? So why not do that for yourself? Find a way to pay yourself $65 a month. Find your way to pay yourself $100 a month, and then do something with it. But it's again being intentional, and then that whole leaping of faith, you're gonna find a way. You really are. And if you do fail, hey, we talked about this earlier in the
Yeah.
podcast. You're gonna fail. It's inevitable. I think Warren Buffett, he doesn't invest in any companies that haven't failed 3 times. And I mean, that's a very interesting model, but he knows that companies are going to fail. And if you can embrace the fail or embrace the suck, I think Jocko Willing talks about that, right? Embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
and, and you'll find different ways. You'll find creative ways to be able to pay yourself, and again, bring in help and pay them. Like in your case, Gustavo,
Yeah. So what I'm gonna bring a topic that we talked a little before start recording, and said like, yeah, maybe after the podcast to talk about it. So like, why don't we talk now so people can hear? So we're talking about crypto. So I told him I'm very new in this field. Like most people got involved with crypto. A lot of people got involved last year, 2021, and that's what happened to me. So I told you I'm a white belt with no stripes. Hopefully by the end of the year I get a little stripe. Who knows?
Yeah.
But so what's going on with that? What you said you want to do a channel,
Yeah.
and why do you feel like you want to talk more about crypto? And for people who don't know, there's a lot of skepticals, right? About it can be
absolutely
sketchy.
So it's a
So
Ponzi scheme. It's fake. I get it. I hear it all the time. But
just share with us, how do you feel about crypto and about creating the channel? Let's go.
Yeah. So that's, you're putting me on the spot. That's good.
Good. Make it.
That's good.
Make think.
That's the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
That we talked about. So I honestly got heavily immersed in crypto about 2 years ago. I heard about it a lot back when Satoshi Nakamoto wrote that first white paper for Bitcoin. But the real motivation is a real good buddy of mine. Him and I invested in a mining rig, and we started mining crypto. And then from there, we obviously want to follow more about, okay, if you want to know about crypto, you want to first get the fundamentals, and that's mining it. And then from there, you can start watching the markets and stuff. And before you knew it, I was just so obsessive over finding information, data, watching the markets and stuff. And it excites me, just like entrepreneurship. And I've always been a numbers guy. I actually went to school to be an accountant and a CPA, and I'm not saying anything bad about that, because accounting came really easy for me. But every time I interviewed a CPA or a CFO or a controller of a company, their day-to-day, I couldn't do it. I really couldn't do it. So then that's when I shifted over to entrepreneurship. So again, just watching the numbers and stuff, crypto just fascinates me with, this is actually where the future's going. And regardless if everyone is talking about, oh, is it decentralized? Is it centralized? The mission of being able to transfer, let's say you have a family member in Brazil, right? And they're stuck in a pinch and they need real quick money, this cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, you could literally send your family member Bitcoin. They could extract it into fiat money and pay. Whereas in the regular financial institutions with the banks, you'd have to go through an intermediary. Even with PayPal and and Venmo, same concept, but it's just using other tokens and coins. So that's where I got caught up in the mix, and before you knew it, I started putting different positions on different coins and different blockchains, and that led to talking to my buddy, and he said, "Man, I think you should start a crypto channel and just talk about different coins or different white papers and communicating effectively in such a way that somebody that doesn't really know much about crypto, or maybe wants to know a little bit more about it, maybe a baby boomer, maybe it's someone from another place that doesn't even have access to it, but put it in such a way that it's easy in layman's terms, it's very basic, and that someone that has no idea what it is can understand it." And I've been blessed with a good mouthpiece and a good way of explaining things. So that's why he said, he said, "Hey Jeff, man, I think you should do it." So that's the next project that I'm going to get into. So I'm working on that, and stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Right on. Man, my suggestion is for people who don't know anything about it. Man, there's some cool documentaries on YouTube, or like just documentaries about money or whatever, and they have like different things. And I've watched a few about crypto, and it's good, and one of the things that we talk to is like, I don't think crypto is going like away.
No,
You know
it's
what I
not.
mean?
It's not.
Anytime
you can't
soon, or it's
stop it.
just not going
Yeah,
away.
you
You know
can't
what I mean?
stop it.
It is what it is at this
Yes.
point. That's what kind of got me to when I start watching documentaries. It's like, dude, this is like such a critical time in a world
Right.
of this transformation. In 100 years, people are going to be looking back and like, hey, that's around the time that started. So
Right.
this is a critical point on the crypto development. There's so many. Sometimes people ask me like, first of all, I barely know anything, and then there's so many things that are changing, how the government is getting involved with this, or you know what I mean. So there's so many things that are going to happen, but just fear and saying like, oh no, the schedule, I don't want to do it. That okay.
Right. And if you look at what's going on, the adoption of it, well, El Salvador making it tender, right? They're Miami's doing this whole Bitcoin piece where they're trying to pay out residents out there and stuff. I mean, Venezuela, there's so much adoption going on that the governments and these central banks, the bank cartels, all that stuff, they're like, what do we do? Because essentially people are taking their money out of these financial institutions that we've been in for hundreds of years, and they're putting it into crypto, and they're like, what the heck is going on, right? And if you watch the markets, you'll see it go up and down. It's just like the stock market, except it just doesn't close. And I honestly truly believe that this is the future. I mean, we talked about it, right? Who thought about the internet? Like, we're now speaking on a Zoom call. You're in Arizona, I'm in San Diego. I mean, who would have thought that we can connect on this make-believe network?
Crazy.
And it's so again, finding ways and being proficient enough to finding these opportunities, I think is going to give the quote unquote entrepreneur an edge on getting ahead, whether it's in finance, whether it's in the service business, commercial real estate, whatever the case may be. I think that you have to be proficient enough to find these opportunities.
For sure. Now let's change gears real quick. So books. What do you feel that it was a game-changing book for you? You can even choose the topic if you want, because it could be business, entrepreneurship, whatever. But and also there are different books for different people, and books that come in different moments of your life. You know what I mean? So what is a book that made one of the books? There's so many that you read, but one of the books that then right away come to your head, like, man, that made an impact on me. Because sometimes it's one page made the impact, and that's it. One page, and you're like, dude, that's worth it, the time. Absolutely.
So in the self-help realm, I believe Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. You must read that. I mean, it has so
I have
many.
it here.
Yeah, nice. It has so many gems, and I've read it 5 times, and every time I read it, I find something new. And another great book is from Jack Redfield, The Celestine Prophecy. It's like the story about
What's his name again?
Jack Redfield.
Okay. And
This,
what's the name?
The Celestine Prophecy.
Hmm.
It's a fictional book, but after reading this book, I literally took coincidence out of my vocabulary. I don't believe in coincidences. I honestly, truly believe that everything happens for a reason at the right time. And even if you don't feel it's the right time, it's the right time. And I believe that that's how I was able to take that leap of faith, especially in that first startup that I did in 2019. So that, and then one last with that, because man, I have so many. That's all I do as I read. I don't even watch TV, literally or figuratively speaking. but
good for you.
Joseph Murphy's the Power of the Subconscious Mind. Oh my God,
I've heard of
that'll
it.
blow your freaking mind, man. And just a quick premise behind it, it's a battle between your conscious and your subconscious mind. Whereas everyone wants to be present and mindfulness and be conscious about things, but there's resistance there. Whereas the subconscious is what is actually materializing in your life. So if you can tap into your subconscious mind, which is right when you're about to fall asleep, like that's when the subconscious mind starts to wake up. If you can start tapping into that and doing different mantras, doing different routines, I'll tell you this, it's like a code breaker of life. If you think life is a game, which I do believe, are you going to be a player or spectator? Someone always said that. Are you going to be a player or spectator? I'm going to be a player. I'm going to get on that court and play the game. But if there are some rules that I can figure out and get some cheat codes on, it's literally the power of the subconscious mind. So I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
Right on. All right. We're getting close to the end of the interview. And I want to ask you here, what is one of the best, what will be actually be two. One is, what are one of the best advice you've ever received from whatever? Could it be jiu-jitsu, life, business, something that pops up in your mind?
Okay. I would say some of the best advice I got was learn how to laugh at yourself. Really learn how to laugh at yourself, because we got this ego and this pride and everything, and we get so caught up in this negative self-talk. But once you push that all away and detach from it and not attached to it, life gets so much easier. I believe there's like this this line that they say as far as detachment goes, right? Detachment is not that a person doesn't own anything, it's that nothing owns that person. So being able to laugh at yourself and detach from all these different things that we get so caught up on, it's one of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten in my life. And then obviously hard work works. That's as easy as that. Hard work works.
That's true.
Don't half-ass it.
And the last question is, what advice would you give to the younger Jeff when you started to like get into entrepreneurship? You know, like if you need to go back and tell, not that you want anything different, but see like, hey, since you getting into entrepreneurship, what is something that you'd be able to tell your younger self?
I would just tell him, I mean, oh man.
Besides relax, dude.
All right. Calm, breathe, stillness. I would just tell him, fasten your seatbelt because it's going to be a fun ride. Because I honestly I have no regrets whatsoever. And just knowing just the volatility and the turbulence that you go through, I thrive off of it. But actually experiencing it and knowing that, again, those failures are going to be inevitable. I think who is it, Earl Nightingale said, we're all self-made, but only the successful admit it. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
just fail your way to success, right? It's that easy. And again, it ties into knowing how to laugh at yourself. You'll find success in that.
Beautiful. Jeff, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. It was awesome
Awesome. Thank you
to
so much for having me.
awesome conversation. I think a lot of people take some really good concepts, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. I feel there's so many awesome and incredible inspiration, dude, of accepting the challenges in your life, creating opportunities out of these challenges, and now just start a new one, but it will keep going. You will continue to accept challenges. Yes, we're going to get the best of it sometimes you won't, but that's everyone else. That it's out there dealing with internal and external battles. We'll talk about the internal battles, but yeah, external battles, the everyday life that you're going to have to go through. But if you can handle, at least get the best of your internal battles, the external would make it, consequently it would be easier, become a little easier. So
Thank you for
yeah,
having me.
thank you so much, guys. Any questions, can always send me a message. I'm on Instagram, Gustavo Dantas BJJ, and you can send me an email as well, info@thebjjmentalcoach.com. And see y'all soon. Us.